The Last Jedi might be the most hated Star Wars film of all time by fans. No, wait, it definitely is. What became of Luke Skywalker, the flying Leia scene, the wasted potential of Finn, and the overall letdown of Rey's backstory are just a few reasons why people really do not like this movie. And even now, while making this video and doing my research, there are definitely things I don't like. But The Last Jedi is definitely better than we give it credit for, and might even be the best movie in the sequel trilogy as a whole. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, as a little side note before I really get started with this video, I just want to say it is completely okay for you to not agree with me, or to not enjoy the sequel trilogy, or even what Disney has done with Star Wars. But please don't treat other people like crap just for having a different opinion than you. I just wanted to say that and get that out of the way. Now let's have a good talk and have a fun discussion. The one thing that really gets me while I was researching for this video is the fact that George Lucas himself hates the sequel trilogy, but thinks The Last Jedi was beautifully made. Lucas always wanted Star Wars films to give you a new experience when it comes to the planets, the plots, the characters, and everything in between. He just wanted to tell you a great story while giving you a new experience, and The Last Jedi definitely did that the most out of the three movies in the sequel trilogy. It's crazy because for the past 2 years, I've only cared about how I envision Star Wars and what I wish happened, that I didn't even realize the things that this movie did right and what depth it added to the story. For a long time, I hated what they did to Luke Skywalker. The fact that he went into exile and pretty much gave up on the Jedi was something I feel like really ruined everything I grew up knowing about the hero, but I was wrong. Luke was blinded by the dark side, which led to Ben's turn into Kylo Ren, and for this, he felt great shame and self-doubt, which made him cut himself off from the Force. During this time, Luke realized that the Jedi needed to die, because the Force is all about balance. The Force doesn't pick sides or favorites, and what side you are on is strictly a point of view. He tried to show Rey this throughout the movie, and so did Kylo after he killed Snoke, when he tried to get Rey to join forces with him and start a new regime. Luke truly evolves in this movie based off his experiences, and he does so in a way that I think is really well done. I just needed to look at it from a different point of view and not how I want the story to go. And that's one of the biggest things I think people have an issue with this movie. People envisioned it to go a certain way, and the fact it didn't go exactly the way they wanted, they really hated it. And there are some things about this movie that are cringy and could have been done way better, and just some ideas should not exist. And for that fact, the fact that people didn't get their way and they wanted things to be a little bit different, and there's so many things that you can easily eat up, people completely crap all over this movie. Moving forward, let's talk about the overall theme of the movie, which is balance. This story features characters facing their fears, fighting conflicts, and finding peace. Both Luke and Kylo are facing their fears, but for opposite reasons. Luke is fighting the fear of how he failed his nephew and the Jedi Order by being tricked to the dark side and what that caused, while Kylo is constantly battling his fear of the light. When talking about confliction, we also look at Kylo. Kylo is conflicted throughout the movie and is shown in many ways. The one I like the most is how he has the opportunity to kill his mom, and as he's about to pull the trigger, he just can't. He serves the dark, but he always has the call to the light, and even has a scar on his face to remind us of his confliction. At the end of the movie, he kills his own master and wants to have Rey join him and build a new order, but she denies him, and he is once again left with confliction and split. And since balance is the theme of the movie, we need to find characters who are at peace to balance out Kylo's confliction, and those two characters are Luke and Rey. They both start off at two different points on where they are at emotionally, but both end up at peace by the end of the movie. Luke, who is cut off from the Force when we meet him in the beginning, ends up completely at peace and one with the Force like Yoda and Obi-Wan before him, when Kylo strikes him down and he becomes a Force ghost. Now, Rey on the other hand, who starts off this journey a lot like Kylo, who is full of confliction and even has signs of giving into the dark throughout the movie, ends the movie at peace. Rey visually demonstrates how she's at peace by balancing the rocks blocking the cave entrance at the end of the movie and freeing her friends from conflict. I'm talking so much about balance because balance is the main theme of this movie, but balance is the overall theme of Star Wars. If you think about Star Wars in general, think about Anakin. He's kind of the heart and soul of Star Wars. He's supposed to bring balance to the Force. It's always talked about. The Force is the most important thing of all of Star Wars, and the Force needs to have balance. So I just think it's very interesting. People love Star Wars down to the core, everything about it. And this movie shows the best things about Star Wars and stays true to what Star Wars is all about, but they still seem to hate it. So in the beginning of the video, I did say there are some parts of this movie that are just cringy, and I don't know why some scenes exist. I don't understand it, and if people hate on those scenes, I completely understand. But at the same time, there are definitely parts of this movie that don't get nearly enough credit. And I'm going to talk about one scene in particular that I definitely overlooked, and I just want to explain it to you guys. So the scene I'm talking about is when the Vice Admiral sacrifices herself and rams the ship into the First Order ships while everyone else escapes. Now, I particularly overlooked this scene a lot when I first seen the movie, just because I was not a fan of the Vice Admiral. It was really weird that the Jurassic Park lady was in Star Wars, and her tone and the way she talked to people was very annoying to me. So when she sacrificed herself, I was just happy that she was not going to exist anymore. But thinking about the scene and rewatching the movie, it got me thinking, every Star Wars movie, the rebels are in this impossible situation and make these unrealistic miracles happen time and time again to either win these battles or to escape or whatever the case may be. But this is the first time they did something that was actually kind of realistic. Usually a bunch of these things need to fall into place. 10 things need to fall exactly into place for this miracle to happen, and the rebels are able to win, or they're able to escape, or something is able to work out that really shouldn't. But the Vice Admiral just kind of takes charge and sacrifices herself, and it actually works out. Now, I really like that because every time you watch Star Wars, you always see this impossible situation where these miracles happen, and it happens every time. But this time, they took a different route, and I think it was done well. And the scene itself is actually really beautiful if you watch it. And it's really cool to watch something different. And that's how I want to end this video. I really appreciate the fact that The Last Jedi gave us that Star Wars feeling for a movie, but gave us something completely different and new, and gave us twists and turns and things we never seen before, and just dared to be different, and I really appreciate that. It's nothing like any Star Wars movie before it, and thinking about the sequel trilogy, I really like The Rise of Skywalker, but when it comes to The Force Awakens really feels just like A New Hope, revamped and slightly tweaked. And I can't really give it too much credit. It's a pretty good movie. A New Hope's a great movie, so obviously, they kind of copied that. It can't be bad, but it doesn't really do anything new or different. There's nothing too exciting about it. It's kind of just introducing a story. I think that's fine and dandy and all, but The Last Jedi really sets up a beautiful ending, and it gives us a lot of different things that I've never seen in a Star Wars movie before. And it being the 8th movie, that's not easy to do. And I appreciate that Rian Johnson took these risks, and not all of them worked out. But I think a lot more of them worked out than we give it credit for. And I hope maybe, just maybe, you guys can rewatch the movie with a different point of view and not have a lot of hate and not, envision it the way you wanted it to end. And just think about it as a story that we got, and think about it how it's different, but it's still a Star Wars movie. At the end of the day, it feels like a Star Wars movie, and it actually is pretty dang good. So I hope you guys like this video. Even if you disagree with me, I hope it was a fun discussion. I hope maybe some opinions of yours have changed, but if not, I respect that as well. So as always, guys, thanks for tuning in, and may the Force be with you. I'll see you next time.